Shalom. Greetings all. First things first, I pulled my last video and I will replace it, or I will go into it again when I have more robust evidence, because right now it's just open to arguments on time zones and UTC and GMT and whatnot. So I will wait until what I have is just a lot more robust. Now, just some of you will remember this. We'll be going into this video, that penis-shaped rocket. That's right, right there. That penis-shaped rocket. That dildo rocket. We'll be going into that. Oh, I don't think you're seeing it. That's okay. First I'm going to display something. Just give me a second. Oh, there I am. Sorry about that. Forgot to move away my little secrecy thing. Yeah. Right, give me a second. I made a challenge. Apologies. I made a challenge recently for Globelings to model the equinox on a physical globe, or model real world on the physical globe. They can't either model the real world on a physical globe, nor their fantasy equinox. This vehicle you're seeing here is a vehicle that I'm willing to give to the winner, whoever manages to actually construct such a globe. This is the same vehicle. Okay, it has the original indicators. It's a pretty cool vehicle. Now, after I took possession of it, this was before I took possession of it, I fixed the bonnet. You can see the bonnet there. It's an old vehicle. It needs upkeep. But anyway, it's a pretty cool car. It sounds really cool. I know there's somebody in the chat, lover of rock, who might love it. But there you go. Just thought I would show that. That's what I'm giving away to anybody who manages to actually model the equinox, or anything like the equinox. Well, no, yeah, the equinox, not anything like it, on a physical globe. So obviously the Globelings go into the, well, if we had a thing the size of the Earth, and like, well, do it on a thing the size of the Earth. See if you can correlate your fantasy with what the real world shows. The answer is no, you can't. You can hoodwink yourself into thinking that you're showing it, but you're not. You're just hoodwinking yourself. Now, I called this, whatever I called it, 1,750 miles per hour. That's right. Why did I call it that? Well, I'll show you. Let me just... Greetings, everyone in the chat. Sasha, I saw you come in just before I went live. Greetings to you. Greetings to everyone. So, I'm going to read this. Because, like I was discussing, I've removed the video on the time differences, because, well, it's just lots of memory hole. It's not strong enough evidence, even though astronomy itself does say, well, yes, Earth's rotation is slowing down, which means the days will be getting longer. That's what it would mean. But no, that doesn't actually mean that. It must mean something else. It must mean in thousands and thousands of years. We'll go over this, but first, we're just going to have a little laugh. This is Ask an Astronomer. Oh, this is Cornell University. That's right. Ask an Astronomer. The moon slows the Earth's rotation, but how fast was it spinning billions of years ago? Brackets intermediate. Starts off, by the way, with inverted commas. Doesn't end with inverted commas, but never mind that. It's only, Cornell University. When was the moon formed, and how fast was the Earth spinning then? In a previous answer, you said the Earth's rotation is slowing down because of this, the moon pulling back on its tidal bulge. 100 years from now, the day will be 2 milliseconds longer than it is now. End brackets. Oh, I suppose that's the end bracket. No, because it's that start of brackets. So, no, they are. So it's a typo. I can't say anything about typos with the typos I have in my book. Anyway, so it goes on. I've seen numbers for the moon's formation from 4 to 4.6 billion years ago. At the rate you gave above, the Earth would have been making a rotation every couple hours in the first case, or actually spinning backwards in the latter. I understand that the rate is definitely not constant, but wouldn't the moon pull harder and thus lengthen the day faster than when it was closer, making the problem even worse? In short, if a long time ago the moon was closer to the Earth and it had a Earth rotation slowing down influence, wouldn't it be greater? Anyway, so the answer from Britt Sharanghausen is this. Now, just note the little bit of it's not quite NLP, it's just pandering to the pleb. Everything you've said is quite right. There you go, I've just appeased you. You're my friend now, aren't you? The missing piece of the puzzle is in the details how the moon interacts with the Earth via tides. Oh really? That's the missing piece of the puzzle. He was saying, hey, wouldn't this be very, very different if your theory of the moon and its age and its proximity to the Earth was correct? Well, never mind that. We'll pretend that there's this other thing called the missing piece of the puzzle. Yeah, just bear with me. I just received a text message. Okay, so the moon does cause a small distortion in the Earth's shape, but as everyone knows, appeal to consensus, the major effect is tides on the ocean. The moon's gravity is actually dragging most strongly on the tidal bulge raised on the oceans. And as it happens, it takes about 12 hours for a big wave to slosh across the Pacific Ocean and back, just in time for its height to be reinforced by the next high tide. So, because the size of the Pacific Basin, the moon is very effective at slowing the Earth's rotation right now. However, the size of the ocean changes due to continental drift. So in the past, even though the moon was closer, tidal friction was a much weaker effect. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to measure or calculate exactly how the positions of the continents have changed over time to the degree of precision that is necessary to work out the effect on tides, and we have just a few ways to measure the rotation of the Earth at different times in its history, so we do not have a complete history of how the Earth and Moon have interacted. And we are not sure exactly how far from the Earth the Moon was when it first formed, or how fast the Earth was rotating at that time. Oh, that's very good. Apart from the line here, as it happens, it takes about 12 hours for a big wave to slosh across the Pacific Ocean and back. Okay, so there's a pilot, an Australian pilot, who likes to say that flat earthers have dyscalculia. But unfortunately for him, he's obviously never noticed this. So I'm going to show what this means. Here's Google Earth. And here's a line across the Pacific Ocean. I've just placed it there arbitrarily. I could have gone from right here and gone, but no, I just place it there. So a wave will slosh from one side to the other and back in 12 hours. Well, on the globe, one side to the other is 10,500 miles. So for that wave to go from one side to the other and back would be a distance of, well, 21,000 miles. Let's grab 21,000 miles and divide it by 12 hours to see how fast it's going. 21,000 miles divided by 12 hours equals 1,750 miles per hour, or 3 times the speed of sound. That's right. Hey, who has dyscalculia here? According to astronomy, the waves, a wave sloshing from one side of the Pacific to the other and back in 12 hours. Well, then why don't boats use that wave and kind of surf across? You know, be doing like 3 times the speed of sound. Seems kind of ludicrous to me, but hey, a Globelink said it, so it must be true. Now we're going to share this. So much for Miss whatever she was called. Britt Scharinghausen. Dyscalculia much or what? What a silly thing to say. 12 hours there and back. Wow. Okay, so I can close this now and we'll focus on this. And we'll play it with the audio all the way through. I'm going to first of all just highlight the fact that that is a giant penis shape rocket. That's right. You know how other rockets have been pointy, a bit like a dog penis? Well, this is more like a human penis. It is. You can see it right there. But let's just watch it. Let's see how they refer to this penis. This giant metal penis. Let's shoot a big giant metal penis into the sky. Wow.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1.
Wait a minute. There is no way that that could be any kind of miniature or anything like that. Obviously, like 100% impossible unless it was. Oh, right.
New Shepard has cleared the tower on her way to space.
Wow, just want to point out, that's a very odd angle change for a cameraman on a helicopter. Let's see. Helicopter. Oh, it just stopped recording at the rocket. Yeah, it's okay.
Shepard has cleared the tower on her way to space.
Huh. That wouldn't be to make it appear like real, you know. No, it doesn't matter. Oh, wait. I'm gonna go back. I don't want to miss any pronouns. Miniature. CGI. Looks to me anyway. Miniature.
New Shepard has cleared the tower on her way to space.
Oh. Listen especially to the pronouns. Look at that great big penis.
Oh man, that roar gets me every single time as she exits the valley on the way.
A she exits the valley? Yeah, that penis, it's a she.
Way up to space. Again, we are aiming for an altitude of about 350,000 feet or 105 kilometers this morning. You can follow along as she gains speed in the top
She gains speed. Look at that penis. Look at her. Look at her go.
right corner of your screen. And of course, as she reaches her altitude, you can follow along on the bottom left corner of your screen. We have confirmed max Q. That was the most intense part of flight on the rocket. Maximum dynamic pressure, as we call it. And a nice clean burn on that BE-3 engine.
Look at that penis.
Go,
Look at that
baby,
big
go.
metal penis. That's not me muting, it's the audio on the video. Probably when they're all having a good chuckle.
All right, next highlight on her way to space,
Her.
main engine cutoff, or MECO as we call it.
That great big penis-shaped thing, it's a she, of course, you know, in this transgender world.
Now, if you and I were flying on New Shepard right now, we're going to feel those G's come on. We're going to...
If you were tiny and could get inside that miniature rocket, you know, like in the episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns insists that people get in to climb into a tiny model airplane that he's holding in his hand and holds a gun up to their heads, get in there. Yeah, like that. If you and I were in there, hey, if you and I were on Santa's sleigh, we'd be able to see lots of things from up there.
It peaks at about 3.5 G's or so. But as we've talked about on other webcasts, in the entire flight, you peak at about 5 G's, but just momentarily on descent, in fact.
This is real footage, by the way. It's just miniature. And that's just a claim I'm making. I'm saying that's a miniature. That's not a great big penis.
And there it is.
It's a miniature
main
penis.
engine cut off. Great job on its ascent by that BE-3 engine. A liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen engine.
She just said on its ascent. She referred to it as an it. Could have referred to it as an it all of the way through. You know, nobody would have, like, batted an eyelid at that. But no, was calling it she all the time. Then there was a mic mute, and now referred to it as it. I don't recall if she refers to it as she again or not. We'll see. I'm just, you know, I'm enjoying mocking this.
Engine. Design, tested, and proven here at Blue Origin. All right, we're looking for separation here between the capsule and the booster. And separation is confirmed.
Now, although the boosters stopped some time ago, the separation between these two objects remains pretty much the same for a long time.
Those payloads are getting a nice ride this morning.
Payload.
Experiencing those clean micro-Gs. And again, if you and I were up there, we'd be doing those somersaults.
If you and I were up there, wrapping presents with Santa.
Maybe a superwoman across the capsule.
Or wrapping presents with Santa and his elves. If you and I were up there.
And I for sure would be gazing out those huge, beautiful windows.
I'd be looking down from Santa's sleigh. See how the separation between them is remaining pretty kind of constant. Looks like something went wrong.
As you can see from the altimeter, we're still climbing up towards space. But the speed is coming down, obviously, because we have turned off the engine. And in fact, you'll know when we hit apogee, when the speedometer on the top right corner of your screen goes to 0. There we go. We have passed the Kármán line of 100
Yeah, they've passed the Kármán line. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because she just said it.
kilometers, or about 328,000 feet. But continue our climb here, looking for apogee.
See the separation between
There you
them?
see the capsule on the left and the booster on the right side of your screen.
Or the capsule on the top, on the booster on the middle, or the lower part. But never mind.
All right, and we have an unofficial number of about 343,000 feet. Congratulations, New Shepard team, on your 6th flight to space. Now let's bring her home.
Now let's bring her, that penis. Women can have penises too. They have the right to them. Oh, what fun. Zoom in. Zoom in on the model.
All right, coming up shortly here. New Shepard is going to re-enter the atmosphere, which means, of course, that it...
We can see it's still in the atmosphere. In fact, doesn't the atmosphere reach all the way out to the moon now? Yes, but you don't talk about that very often. Oh no, we mean a different layer of the atmosphere. That's what... It's gone beyond one layer of the atmosphere into another layer of the atmosphere.
It's actually going to have air pressure for those control surfaces to push against to make sure that she guides her right. She's guided right.
She. What's all this she? It's a penis. Call it an it, if anything.
Back to the, what we call our north landing pad. Again, just 2 miles north of where she's taken off from.
Hey, what happened with the whole Coriolis? Eh?
But shortly here, we're going to look for the wedge fins to deploy.
Zoom in. You see when they start zooming in. They could have zoomed in all this time, but now they started to zoom in. You can see the separation between them growing more. Now they're starting to zoom in on the little model rocket thing that they just launched.
And the wedge fins are out. All things looking nominal.
Nominal. What an absurd word.
You may recall those wedge fins are housed up in the what we call our ring fin. As the rocket's coming back down, the air is flowing through that ring fin, centralizing the pressure, and that keeps the rocket nice and stable and straight as it's coming back down to land. Of course, the wedge fins also help with the stability of the rocket as she descends back.
Cut. I'm going to go back. Oh, kind of milky sky.
Fin, centralizing the pressure, and that keeps the rocket nice and stable and straight.
That's a pretty milky chemtrail sky. We all know that kind of sky. When they chemtrailed hours and hours earlier and the sky has got that kind of pastel blue, that chalky white thrown onto the blue.
As it's coming
Wait
back
till
down
they
to
cut.
land. Of course, the wedge fins also help with the stability of the rocket
Clear a day.
as she descends back home to Earth. Next, we'll be looking for the drag brakes to deploy. Those are also housed in the ring fin, and that's going to dramatically cut the speed of the rocket.
Model.
They, in fact, do most of the work in cutting the speed of the rocket as she comes back into land. And again, then we will look for the firing of the BE-3 rocket, the BE-3 engine, that is, that will slow it to just 4 or 5 miles an hour as she touches down.
She, that penis, as it touches down and bounces a bit.
There are the drag brakes.
What was that? Oh, there was an echo to it. Oh, and what was that again? Oh, and now she says, boom. It's like, didn't you hear it the first time when it was like a double boom? And then it was like an echo to it, and then was the third one? That's interesting. Now let's compare screens. Bottom right, grey sky. Main screen, quite clear sky. Like grey, blue. But it's okay, Globlings, Scientologists, they don't, you know, they don't see colour.
The sonic boom, engine relay.
Caught.
Boom. There's the sonic boom.
Yeah, she just said that totally out of, like, it just didn't go with the sounds. I'm going to play it again. Yeah, I am.
Thanks.
Boo-boo. Nothing. Not a whimper from the woman. No.
Boom. There's the sonic boom, engine relay.
Oh, caught. Going back again.
Boom. There's the sonic boom, engine relay.
Caught. To a different camera altogether. Oh, I'm teasing you. this camera, the main camera, could just like zoom in. The other camera with a grey sky, that also could zoom in. They could show simultaneous footage from both. But no, cut to a different camera altogether.
Engine relay.
And cut to this. Watch for the bounce.
And a smooth control
Bonk,
hover
bonk,
back
bonk.
home. And touchdown.
Oh, it's almost like it was on strings. Let's look at the bounce again.
And a smooth control
Bounce.
hover back home. And touchdown.
Oh,
Welcome back, New Shepard. A beautiful launch to space and back.
to space and back.
To think that that is its roar gets me.
Oh, look at that great big penis going to space and back. Yeah, because Scientologists can do anything they want. Yeah, of course they can. Okay, that's it. Now I'm going to go into chat, see if Lover of Rock is still propagandizing for that imposter. Wow, what a complete crock of, just what a crappy thing that was. Yeah, let's just cut cameras all the time. In fact, let's just do it on different days. Never mind, the weather conditions aren't the same. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm in the chat. Wow, what's happened to the chat? Oh, I know. I was going to, and I am going to play something else. Going to be about half an hour long. And the audio's not that good, but it's well worth listening to. And it's from Posey Parker. And you might start to see my attitude towards transgenders. Towards those, excuse me, freaks. So just bear with me while I pull it up. 73% of them, men who say that they're women but keep their penises and demand that women inspect their penises, you know, but refer to them as a vagina. That's right. Just where's? Yep, here it is. I've got it. This is from Posey Parker channel. Just give me a second. Yeah, they have the right to have a gynecologist look at the penis. That's right. Because it's a vagina. Because they're saying it's a vagina, so you better say it's a vagina too. That's right. You can refer to that penis-shaped rocket as a she all the time. So I'm going to show what the video's called. And while it's playing, I'm going to be messing with people in the chat. Just a second. I hope this is the one. No, it isn't. No, dagnabbit. Just give me a second. The invention of gender dysphoria. Here you go. This video. We're going to watch this. Why? Because this is about the real world. In the real world, there are currently people who say that they are the sex that they're not. That's what's going on in the real world. There are people who say that they're the other sex. Yeah, they just say it, and somehow they've tricked people into agreeing to it because they've used terms like kindness and safety and fear. So people are like, oh, we don't want you to be afraid, Mr. Freak with a beard, who walks around saying that you're a woman, you're a freak. So we're going to listen to this and we're going to hear a slightly different point of view. Okay, so let's go.
Hi everybody. Sorry, lovely to see you all.
They give her the mic, but it doesn't really improve the audio, but never mind.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about an issue that's concerning me in relation to feminist campaigning against transgender gender rights created.
Let me know if the audio is good enough or if it's too poor. If it's too poor, I will just paste a link to this talk. So please, just let me know. Type X if the audio is fine. If you can hear it, I mean. Not my audio, obviously. Gender blenders.
All of the problems we are now having. The tendency is to split them into the good, nice, kind transgenders who are friends to feminists. These are the ones who are the old-fashioned. They probably got diagnoses of gender dysphoria a couple of decades ago. They're the real ones. They've got gender dysphoria. They're the ones that the Gender Recognition Act was meant for in 2004. And they're the ones who get their diagnosis of gender dysphoria. They live for 2 years as the opposite sex, and so on. So they can come before the panel and get a certificate and say that they do gender stereotypes or sex stereotypes really well. Now, these are seen as the good people. So we have them on the panels with where we've got feminists talking about self-identification and what a problem it is. Some of them are like Debbie Hayden and Christina Harrison and so on, whom I may say a little more later on. No, maybe I should say.
No. The audio's too poor. Okay, so instead I'm going to paste a link in the chat. It's well worth watching, people. Because what you're going to hear here, you don't hear. You just generally do not hear about. Like, you know, how many men wanting to be women versus women wanting to be men. It's 73% men wanting to be women or claiming that they are women. But not really wanting to be women, you know, still have the penis. That's why they made up this, oh no, gender's all in the brain. Yeah, you can be a woman with a penis. Musicians for Truth. Posty Parker is a feminist, yes. A good feminist, not the crazy male-hating feminist. Peter, I'm going to win his car, Danny Diesel. Hey, if anybody was going to win it, I'd say it was you. Right, let me sort this out. There. Started. Finally started properly. Writing the next book. Ooh. Yeah, I have. Right, where am I? I need to see what's going on. There. I hope you all had a good festive season. I hope you all enjoyed the 1,750 mile an hour wave that sloshes from one coast in the Pacific across to the opposite coast and back. Yeah. Yeah, says an astronomer. They're very good with numbers, aren't they? Oh dear. Right, so I'm looking in the chat, just see how everybody's doing. I'm seeing my hair looks terrible. Oh, I might put a hat on. Nah, I won't. Can't be bothered. Yeah, so I just thought I'd share that. I might again share the 10,600 mile communication between Wales and Sydney. That the Globeling's like, well, you don't understand, it's a thing. It's like, no, you don't understand, the Earth is not a globe, for goodness sake. Flat Earth data, right now globers are trying to prove curvature. You think it would be evident? Yes, you think it'd be evident, and You think they look at the document explaining how, in order for all these things, we best assume a flat or non-rotating Earth, don't you know? Yeah, for these long-range tests, for these very long-range surface of the Earth dependent observations, we best assume that the Earth is a flat, non-rotating surface. Yeah, just assume. And the Globelins say, well, they're assuming it for ease of calculation. It's like, no, they're assuming it because it's a pertinent factor in what they're looking at. If you had to fly round a curve, then you'd have to like incorporate the curve on your calculations for flying round a curve. But if you're flying over a flat surface and your gyroscope's not going to precess, then you better assume it's a flat surface. Otherwise, you're going to have problems with your gyro. It's going to be telling you it's flat when it should be showing drift, including studies involving gyros. You know, somebody pasted a link to it earlier today. What happened with the video, TJFE? What video? The video you're watching now or the previous video? I pulled the previous video because I don't want to mislead. I want to show what I've... Tell you what, I thought I would show. I'll just tell you instead. The Julian calendar was followed for 1,627 years. The Julian calendar. Yeah. Just 1,627 years of the Julian calendar after the Roman calendar was updated with the help of Greek mathematicians. Wonderful. And then it started to not quite make sense with, well, the sun and time. So we've had the Gregorian calendar for the last 438. I've been explaining that time is changing and not in the tiny milliseconds, like 0.0012 milliseconds a year. No, or a day. Nope. More than that. But it's time. And it's difficult for people to get their heads around. It's difficult to explain, never mind for people to get their heads around. So instead I'm just going to wait patiently until more undeniable evidence comes forward. Henry Hill writes, Dennis Subiras, if you really deep down believe the Earth is flat, it's like, no, you don't believe that the Earth is flat, just like you don't believe that you're a human being. You know that you're a human being. So, you'd predict the conspiracy to cover it up would crack soon. What do you call thousands of flat earthers on YouTube and elsewhere if not the conspiracy cracking? Henry Hill. What do you think a conspiracy cracking would look like? With documents from the military, from NASA, saying, yes, flat, non-rotating Earth. Like, really, Henry Hill, specifically explain, what do you think it would look like for the conspiracy to crack? I'm going to wait for your answer. Really simple. Please don't go shy, Henry Hill. Really explain what you think it would look like if the conspiracy cracked. I'm waiting, but there doesn't seem to be anything. Thomas Gron, the globe deception still holds because of the deceptive way the curve is presented and the lack of shrinking in angular size of objects, beyond the horizon line. And Dennis Viras, you're describing the growth of the Flat Earth movement. Somebody involved in the many countries involved would speak out soon. Oh, you mean somebody involved in the conspiracy would speak out soon? How about astronomers? Do you think astronomers might speak out soon after the mysterious death of all those astronomers? It's just a question, Henry Hill. Back to the lack of angular shrinkage. Yes, more atmosphere. Not just shrinkage of the sun and moon, which don't really shrink unless different atmospheric conditions like kick in which case they do shrink, but those are dismissed by the Globelings. But physical objects at the horizon, yeah, more atmosphere, more distortion, more diffraction. What? Cosmic Surfer writes, who's in Cape Town, not had real summer in Cape Town yet, still feels like a late winter. Count your blessings you're not in Australia, mate. Like, really? Like, not fun right now in many places of Australia. Okay, so, Henry Hill. Here's a question for you. If Scientology really was a bunch of bullshit, then surely, by now, somebody within the Scientology circles, who is in the Scientology circles, would speak out. Right? I love this Scientology analogy. Henry Hill, you have to say, well, yeah. So Henry Hill is writing something not in line with what I was saying because of delay. So first, let me say to you, Henry Hill, if Scientology was a bunch of shit, you think that some of the higher-ups in Scientology would come out, right? Now read your comment. Antonio, there are dozens of nations pumping out fake CGI every day. That's right. All getting paid for it. Which one of them do you think would like to lose their job? Which fake CGI company do you think would rather just not have that work? Then hundreds of actors playing astronauts. Hundreds of actors playing astronauts? People faking their speeds. Thousands of airliners daily. Wait, what about ships? It would come out. Like, pilots can't fake the speed of thousands of airliners. Pilots fly their planes, and the speeds are, well, the supposed distance they've flown and the time they've been flying and what course they took. Not faking for them. They just say, yeah, I flew 7,000 miles and it took this long. They didn't. If they flew 12,000 miles, they're not going to say, wait a second, I think I just flew 12,000 miles. How would they know? Flat Earth Genius, I have a few slides explaining how looming or why looming cuts off the bottom of distance objects. Yeah. I'm looking for Henry Hill. Dennis Wiratz, there have been loads of mainstream documentaries from people involved in the Scientology cult who now exposed it. But wait, they're not in Scientology. If a former astronomer came and said, oh, it's all a bunch of shit, the Earth is flat, what do you think the mainstream would do? Say, disgruntled astronomer was fired, and now he's saying this nonsense. That's what the mainstream would say, is it not? Think about it. Like, really think about it. Flat Earth data. The part of Dianetics is real. The power of suggestion is a Jedi mind trick. The power of suggestion is the most powerful mind tool ever used on a human. You have people believing Jesus is coming back. Meanwhile, you have the Jews, the ones that were supposedly waiting for the Messiah, still waiting for the Messiah. And meantime, you've got a different group of people saying, no, 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 the Messiah came and the Jews just didn't realise. But he did. Like, oh, really? And then there's all the other people saying, no, there were lots of other pre-Jesus gods that were born on the 25th of December and so on and so forth. Jason Rogers, who knows what he's talking about. Pilots really don't worry or care how fast their true calibrated airspeed is either. Air data computers and INS compute all of that shit. Pilots could care less. Of course, they've just got to make sure that they get there and don't crash, don't go off the route. Oh. Henry Hill writes, I love engaging with globings. Flat earthers like to say how mind-blowing it is when they discover the world is flat. It is for a period, and then it's just, you adjust. But none of the people involved in covering it up speak out because they are paid off. Wait, that's a non sequitur. Are you saying that the people who know, people involved who know that the earth is flat, you think that they would also have their minds blown? No, if they've known about it, why would their minds be blown? But you say that, you know, we're saying people who know stay stum because they're paid off. Sometimes not because they're paid off, sometimes because of a sense of duty. Wait a second. You're making another fallacy there, Henry Hill. My original statement is correct. You don't believe it will ever come out from anyone involved in the vast conspiracy. You only believe the movement will grow. Very telling. When have I said that, Henry Hill? In fact, I go out of my way to not say the word belief, first of all. And second, I've explained in the Book of the Sun how things are going to play out. And when have I ever said that the movement, you only believe the movement will grow? No, the movement will grow. Just like the earth, the day will continue to become longer. That's just what's going to happen. The day is going to continue to grow longer, day after day after day. Eventually the sun will disappear and stop being what we call the sun. By that time, we will be underground in deep underground mega cities. By then, the authorities will have explained everything. Okay? The authorities. Not those in the know, the authorities. They'll first slowly explain it to all the people who should be in the know. Explain it to them, and later everybody else. And you, Henry Hill, are just saying, I don't believe any of it. It's like, it's okay. That's okay. You don't have to believe any of it. If you want, I can show you a Santa tracker. You know, it's from NORAD. I could show it to you right now. Tracking Santa with satellites. But you'll believe that, won't you? No, I've not deleted Larry Capolla. No, I've not deleted the video. I've placed it on private. And no, I didn't read the message. Anne Nisola. This is too big of a movement for anyone to stop. The world has always been changed by new truths. It's just how it goes. Like for instance, right now we still have, in the world of history, we still have this nonsensical timeline. If you look right now at history and you look at the timeline of the human race, you'll see it branches off. Where some people say 125,000 years old. Other people say 500,000 years old. Other people say approximately 700,000 years old. Other people say somewhere between there. That's just history of the human race. You then look at the history of technology and you have this big mismatch. Like technology of the Maya and the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Chinese versus technology 400 years ago. Then you look at the calendars. So you look at our calendar, which we've had for 438 years. The previous calendar was for, according to historians, this is 1,627 years. Unless the previous calendar was held for a couple of hundred years under the Romans, and then that finished, and then a new era started with a new sun, a new cycle. And then the Pope came around and said, right, let's say everything happened a long time ago, let's say this is the calendar now, and the historians can do some patchwork. Because if in Britain alone, I don't know about the rest of Europe, but in Britain alone, you went from a highly functioning Roman society to a society without sewage systems. So, society with sewage systems and fresh water to a society without sewage systems and without fresh water. Like, first high technology, then low technology. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So, no, I think it's a crock of, I think history, it's just been spliced into and dissected and shuffled around and made it to a chimera. Thomas Grown writes to Henry Hill. There are pilots and professionals that have come out on YouTube, but you never accept them. You're truly naive if you think mainstream media will present those that stepped out. So think about it, Henry Hill. He goes on to say that he has taken the first map of the flat earth all over the world. Larry Capoya, who says that? I'm going to look back. Hi Antonio, did you read the message I've left in another video about Celino Thamna? Ese tío no tiene ni idea. Es tan estúpido que no se ha dado cuenta. Y le he dicho al tío ese que está haciendo la crítica de los mapas, que a ver cuando critica el mío en este canal. Porque en el suyo me puede dar mute. Oh, wait a second. Hey, Henry Hill, do Polish astronauts count as people in the know? Because a Polish astronaut has come out and said, yeah, it's flat. In fact, I think I'll show it. Wow. You do a search for Polish astronaut, Earth is flat, and you get Chris Hadfield and the other frauds. Here. So I'll play it here. Just give me a second. This is dedicated to you, Henry Hill. Flat Earth data, they've been predicting that for the last 30 years. They're predicting civil war in 10 years or less, and a switch to one currency between Canada, US and Mexico. Yes, the Amero. Yeah, 20 years at least they've been talking about that. So let me switch screens. And show Henry Hill, an astronaut, saying that the Earth is flat. Yeah, well, it's Polish, it doesn't count. Really? Here, pay attention, okay? I will read it out. You've been there. Is Earth really a sphere hanging in outer space? That's the question, okay? You've been there. Is Earth really a sphere hanging in outer space?
jest kulą zawieszoną w kosmosie?
Jest płaska.
It's flat. As some expect. I didn't expect this question.
Tak jak oczekują. Nie spodziewałem się co prawda tego pytania, ale zapewniam pana, że jest płaska.
I assure you, it's flat.
Generał Mirosław Hermaszewski, jak to
We interviewed General Miroslav Hermaszewski. So for the first and last Pole in space, that's him.
dotąd pierwszy i ostatni Polak, który odbył lot orbitalny. Dziękuję serdecznie za rozmowę.
Thank you for interview. Is there something about orbital, which I take means
Mirosław
orbit?
Hermaszewski, jak dotąd pierwszy i ostatni Polak, który odbył lot orbitalny. Dziękuję serdecznie za rozmowę.
Thank you for interview. Dziękuję. Where have we heard that?
Mirosław Hermaszewski, jak dotąd pierwszy i ostatni Polak, który odbył lot orbitalny. Dziękuję serdecznie za rozmowę.
Dzięki. Dziękuję, kłaniam się.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Jest płaska.
It's flat. As some expect, I didn't expect this
Jak
question.
oczekują. Nie spodziewałem się co prawda tego pytania, ale zapewniam pana, że jest płaska.
I assure you, it's flat. Oh no, it doesn't count. It's Polish. Doesn't count. Yeah, doesn't count because it's Polish, see? That's how the world works. Unless it's from your country, it doesn't count. Huh. But that guy, as you see, is getting on. By now that guy's saying, the next big thing that's going to happen to me is death. The guy who killed Kennedy gave a deathbed confession. Why do you think that so many people, that the Canadian minister, former minister of defence, has come out and said, yeah, aliens are real and stuff. But he's old. Why do you think these old people come out and say this? They think, yeah, I've had a pretty good life. I think I'll leave by dropping a great big lie. Or do you think that they go, sod it. I'm too long in the tooth to carry on pushing this bullshit. Don't know. I mean, I'm just asking. Yes, dziękuję. Dziękuję. Jason Rogers, Borat, yeah. Paul Hellier, that's it. Thanks, Sasha. So, does a Polish astronaut, does a astronaut count? Emerald Rider. Many military documents regarding flight and weapon trajectory since the 1950s that have openly stated in hundreds of docs made public that calculations are based on a flat stationary plane. A flat non-rotating Earth. But the Globalists say, well, we've not had it taught to us by our college professors, so it can't be true. So you go to college professors in astronomy, and they say, yeah, the Earth is flat, the universe is flat. Oh, no, it doesn't count. No, they must mean something else by flat. Spec writes, if you have family, children, grandchildren, you continue with the lie even on your deathbed. No, you don't. You don't. No. Because you think, look, I've got children and grandchildren, and they could kill me, and they could kill all my children and grandchildren too. It's okay, I'll make sure they're alright on the other side. Because, Spec, you're thinking, and I'm assuming that you're younger, you're thinking that the fear of death, that's terrifying when you're very young, carries on just as terrifying. It doesn't. It loses that fear as you age. Gets to the point like, I spoke with my grandfather shortly before he died. He's sitting, facing the sun, and he's just sitting there. And I said to him, hey, what are you doing? And he says, I'm watching death approach. Calm as Larry. La rica polla. No me interesa, gracias, pero no me interesa. Porque dice que ha hecho el primer mapa y yo hice el primer mapa hace 3 años, pero lo quité, hice otro, hace 2, lo quité y hice otro el año pasado. Y ahí está. O sea, mira, hay gente así por todos lados. Face, do you not understand the concept of lifetime actors born into world government families? Of course I do. Do you not understand the concept of human beings breaking their programming? The transformation of America. Look into that. Poles keep it real, says Rambo Skills Bear. Yeah. Hemp alchemy on a flat earth. You're so right, Antonio. Age diminishes the fear of death. Right. So I think I'll play that video again by Level Earth Observer. Face, not programming if they're bored into it. Face, how much belief are you putting into your statement there? Think about it. How much belief? You don't know, so you can only believe. So how much belief are you putting into your statement? Ah, ok, la rica polla. Ok, te doy una llave, pasas el enlace. Ok, gracias. La rica polla is saying, hey, there's this Spanish flat earther who's made a different AE map, and he says he's made the first flat earth map. It's an AE map, you clown shoe. So Globelinks in the Spanish language world, they're like, oh, let's look at this crappy map. Now, why don't you look at one that gives you more problems, like mine? So he's pasting a link so that I can expose him, and I will, in the Spanish-speaking communities. I say, you freaking just clown shoe. It's an AE map. That's all you've done. Right, so I'm going to share Level Earth Observer's video on Marconi's message from Wales to Warunga. You see, what I should do is just one subject at a time, and there'll be people saying, oh, he just did a 666 thing. If so, fuck off. Go back to church. What I should do is just one subject and not veer away from that subject. Because when I go to 2 or 3 subjects, the Globalists go to whatever is the weakest one, no matter how astoundingly strong the others might be. Weak one, that's a weak point. Like, oh, really? On the back of the this video and I think even the challenge for the Globelings, they look for, sometimes they'll look for a slip of the tongue. Go, oh, you said this. Oh my God, what the heck is wrong with you? How about you accept my challenge and win that car, the car that I showed? So I'm going to play this again, because it's a good one. Just, how about you justify the equinox? You say, oh yes, no, Bill, well, what happens is, right, so if there wasn't refraction, the sun would rise 3 minutes earlier and set 3 minutes earlier. Would rise 3 minutes later and set 3 minutes earlier, and the day would be, well, 12 hours long, see? Like, okay, what about the other latitudes on that same day? Oh, well, if there wasn't refraction, then it starts getting a bit dodgy, doesn't it, for you? That's why I said that your symbol for the equinox should be the equinox. Your clown shoes. Yeah, it goes up like this and up like this, and because refraction here, refraction is here, Thomas, not here. The refraction isn't here. It's not making it appear later there. The heck is... Just model it physically. Just go ahead and model it. Right, so I'm going to share this. Give me a second. This is a cracking little discussion. So, enjoy.
Today we're back with Guglielmo Marconi, Nobel Prize winner.
It's Guillermo Marconi. The GL make a Y sound in Italian. Just so you know. Guillermo Marconi.
And we're looking at the first ever wireless message sent between the UK and Australia. We're going to look at 2 articles, both of which I'm going to leave a link in the description. We're going to look at a commemorative poster, which is really interesting. And we're going to discuss the distance involved here. Massive distance. First, let's have a quick look at the first article. In the northern Welsh town of Wonfor, sorry if I've got that wrong, guys, as far as pronunciations are concerned, on a cool and overcast night, the Australian Prime Minister William Morris Hughes drafted a message for Senator Guglielmo Marconi to send to Australia by wireless. It was Sunday the 22nd of September 1918, and the Prime Minister had just returned from the battlefields in Europe. This was to be the first direct wireless message sent from the United Kingdom to Australia, and the recipient was Mr. Ernest Thomas Fisk, who had an experimental wireless station in the attic of Luciana, his residence at the corner of Stewart and Cleveland Street in Warunga. Sorry if I got that wrong, guys, which is essentially a district just north of Sydney in Australia. So essentially in 1918, Marconi sent a wireless message from North Wales to just north of Sydney, Australia. Wow! Incredible. There's Sir Ernest Fisk there, who was the chap who received the signal. Let's just look at the old commemorative poster here, because I thought this was pretty cool. Let's have a quick peep. You'll be able to access all this yourself through the link. First direct wireless messages from England to Australia. See, that's a bit naughty. It says England. It's actually Wales. So that's a bit naughty, guys. Oh, no, I don't want to download it. Although I might do actually saying that. There we go. Right, I'm going to go to the second article. Bear with me. Okay, we're over at the second article. First half of it is essentially what we were just looking at in the first article. So we're just going to skip that and just come down to this bit here. Right, obviously we're discussing the same radio wireless messages being sent. These messages were transmitted by arrangement with Senator G. Marconi and Godfrey C. Isaacs. They sent from Marconi Transatlantic Station at Carnarvon, Wales at 3:15 and 3:25 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. They were received instantaneously at 1:15 and 1:25 p.m. Sydney time by Mr. E.T. Fisk. That is incredible. Spectacular as the event was, these were certainly not the first wireless signals received in Australia direct from England. During World War I, signals from the big transmitting station at Nyon, is it Nyon? Not sure if I pronounced that right, sorry, in Germany had been heard regularly in Australia. So there was every chance signals could be received from England, and in fact AWA, which was an Australian radio company I believe, had been carrying out experimental work for more than a year prior to the official messages. Incredible. So I've marked both those locations on the globe. Distance says 10,629 miles. Is over 10,000 miles. I can't even use the globe Earth curve calculator because it starts to just lose the plot after 5,000 miles. But essentially, this is on the other side of the ball Earth. First we're going to follow the line and then we're going to have a look side on. But just look how far this is. This is ridiculous. Let's have a look. Incredible distance. Side on. Let me see if I can zoom out a bit. I mean, look. That's literally the other side of the ball. Now, I know what the globe believers are going to say, radio wave propagation. They literally are going to say that. And if you're not sure what that means, they're literally, well, I'll show you. Bear with me, 2 secs. Now, bearing in mind, we're talking about over 10,000 miles here of supposed distance. 10,000 miles. What the globe believers will have to do to justify ridiculously long radio messages being sent is stuff like this. Essentially, radio wave propagation, where the signals are being bounced off something that's never been proven, but it's called the ionosphere. They're essentially saying it's bouncing up and down, up and down, up and down, but going all the way round to the other side of a ball. Do you realise how much accuracy that would require? Wouldn't it just make more sense you'd be transmitting these signals across a level plane? Just like demonstrable reality tells us, just like all practical demonstrations of the water tell us. Rather than have to entertain, I don't know, what do you call this? Radio wave ping pong or pinball wizard radio wave theory? I mean, I'd like to see a Globie using 1918 radio technology on one side of a mountain communicate with his mate a couple of 1,000 miles away with loads of mountains and stuff in between. I'd like to see him using 1918 radio technology point up at the sky and bounce his signal over mountains, back off the earth, back on to the ionosphere, and prove that what they're saying is real. Because to me it makes far more sense that these messages are being sent on a level plane. Perhaps the atmosphere is containing these signals. Again, I don't know. But one thing I do know is the water tells me that this place is a level plane.
And
the
all those
distances
documents.
involved with these long range.
The water tells him, and all those official documents, that this is a level plane. A level, non-rotating Earth.
Early radio transmissions and sending of early messages between, in this case, Wales and Australia tell me the Earth's a level plane. That, of course, is backed by demonstrable reality. And that is not alone. There's many, many stories of ridiculous distances of radio messages or wireless messages being sent. 10,000 miles here. Unbelievable.
Yep, unbelievable. Well, not really unbelievable. Unbelievable for the globe. But they have their Scientology, you know. Hey, if Xenu can throw monsters into a thing, a volcano, then of course we can do that. Yeah, there. Right, so there was somebody saying, notice it's Greenwich Mean Time. It's like, if only it was that simple. If you look into Greenwich Mean Time, and this whole time zone changing started in 2016 by Britain, and then it was suspended in 2017, and then it was started again in 2018. Back then, do you think that Greenwich Mean Time might have just been switched, and when they referred to Greenwich Mean Time, they might have meant, now we've moved our clocks forward, now this is Greenwich Mean Time. Now we move our clocks back, now this is Greenwich Mean Time. The rest of the world can accommodate to us, which is how the British saw the world back then. Could it be that? Could it? Look into Greenwich Mean Time. Notice the words, nowadays, Greenwich Mean Time, da 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 da. What does nowadays, what can you infer from the term nowadays Greenwich Mean Time? Could it be, but in previous times, Greenwich Mean Time something else? That it's just been taken out so that you don't pay attention, so you don't notice. I've already shown that South America was much farther away from North America. Sorry, South America was much farther away from Africa in old globes. Have you forgotten that part? No. It doesn't matter that it was Masons making the globes. They obviously didn't know what they were doing. It doesn't matter that it was film industry, tied with the whole Illuminati and all of that. No, they obviously didn't know what they were doing. That's why those globes are wrong. Should I show it again? Lover of Rock is writing stuff. It's something about the USS Liberty bouncing signals off the moon. I bet they did. So I asked, according to whom? And I'm going to see the chat. Nope, no response. So according to whom? That's interesting. Huh. Lover of Rock, ignoring a direct question. That's bizarre. Anyway, I think I will show that old. No, I won't. I can't be bothered. Done it 2 or 3 times already. Just go and look. Just see if you can think outside of your own comfort zone. If you're trying to find only things that agree with you, you're going to dismiss all those things that don't. Why don't you try to find the things that don't agree with you? I looked, after my last video, I looked and I thought, okay, right now I can't say that these things agree with me. I looked for that. So I pulled the video because it would be confusing to some. Pulled it. I will just wait. I have time. I will wait until the world presents something irrefutable. Like, you know how the world presents diverging, non-parallel sunbeams? And I've shown it on this channel. Like that kind of thing. Just wait until the world presents it. Simple. I have a compass. I have access to the internet. I can see what the magnetic declination is for my region. I can look at the sun. If the sun is 1 degree ahead of where it should be, oopsies. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. So you better keep your eye on the sun. YouTube search Operation Moonbounce. Oh, jeez. Moon search Operation Apollo 11. Yeah, just Do a YouTube search for Apollo 11. You'll see the moon is real. They could land. Ugh. Have I seen the Vsauce's new interview regarding FE? I have not. Cowabunga Joe. I'm going to give you a wrench. Paste a link. I'll play it. There. Oh, somebody was asking about the Church of Flat Earth. I don't know about this church. I don't know anything about it. Auntie Meg, have you had a chance to look at LC King videos? Yes, I have. I've looked at LC King videos. Really good, but I think a few levels ahead in terms of confirmation. You must be able to confirm what you're describing, what you're saying. Otherwise, you're just asking people to believe things. Cowabunga Joe. So I'm always cautious. I'm always cautious of things that can't really be confirmed. That must be only believed. The filaments I've talked about can be literally seen. So it really isn't a case of just believing. You can see them. You can see them. Oops. What's this? So Anthony Cumia versus David Wise. The heck is this? This isn't Vsauce. Yeah, don't know what that is. You pasted the wrong link. Cowabunga Joe. Yeah, okay. He's saying, sorry, wrong link. Oh, God, you're right. So, now, Rune Thorson writes, Church of FE is just a silly idea of Globebusters Bob's for potential free speech rights in the USA if they deem FE hate speech at a later date. I think they already made it, actually, at the Book of the Sun. Rune Thorson, this idea of the Church of FE for protection against hate speech comes from me. It was my idea, and I said it on Globebusters after speaking with Sasha, Orphan Red. Hey, you know one way we could protect the flat earth? Just make it into a religious organisation, say it's a church. Oh my God, that guy is so dry of ideas. Hammond Walker says, I think I recall you saying that someone would start a flat earth church. Said that recently, but years ago. I said, hey, you know, because at the time they were saying, you know what they'll do? They'll say that flat earth is a terrorist organisation. And on Globebusters, I said, don't really need to worry about that, because the minute they start doing that, we'll just establish flat earth as a religious belief. There. And then that's it. So, and Sasha, Orphan Red, and I discussed it for exactly those reasons. Also, we're going to make it more of a thing. But yeah, Bob from Globebusters hasn't got an original. He's not had an original idea for freaking years. That is correct. See, Orphan Red in the chat. That is correct. At the Book of the Sun. I know. I remember. Like way back when, before the imposter and all that craziness. Okay, here's the link apparently to Vsauce. Vsauce Flat Earth video retrospective. Oh, a retrospective. No, I haven't seen this. Thank you. I won't play it now because Vsauce does send copyright strikes. What the heck is this? Oh yeah, I can close that. Cowabunga Joe, thanks for that. I've got it open. I'll watch it later. But in the past, I showed how much Earth can be seen from space. From Vsauce, and got a copyright strike for it. I'm going to comment, but I'm not reading it out. Right, now I'm just scrolling back to remove wrenches. Okay. Globebusters Bob. Hey, he's had this great idea from Antonio. Globebusters Bob has had this great idea from Antonio. Hey, Crow 777, son, not really physical. That's a great idea from Antonio. Wait, it behaves like a sort of kind of holographic, it might be in more than one place at once. Great idea. Crow 777 from Antonio. Anyway. Dave Hinkle, pretty sure you said that on one of my hangouts in 2016. Yes, Dave Hinkle. Oh, nice. Okay. So, Dave Hinkle, in 2016, is saying, pretty sure you said that on one of my hangouts in 2016. If I find it, I will pass it to you. Thanks, man. Just Bob and his original ideas. He's watching this. Hi, Bob. Fraud. Hey, Antonio, just drop about that rape thing. Anyway. Rock, lover of rock. Thomas, exactly. USS Liberty radio operator. Knew the math involved. Look up Liberty photos. You will see the huge concave dish on its deck. Is it pointing up the dish? Or is it pointing kind of horizontally? Lover of rock. Hey, how about 10,000? Hey, how about the War of the Beams? Were the Germans bouncing beams off the moon for targeting purposes? Eco Spec. I remember Mark Sargent saying the moon is a hologram 3 or 4 years ago. Yes, but he was also saying we're in enclosure like the the Truman Show. He was saying the moon is a artificially created hologram. It isn't. Let me see if I can find my own Dave APP Wise. Oh, David Weiss, that guy, he threw a hissy fit when I joined him. His voice was trembling and everything. I joined him on a hangout. I said, hey, what's this about your friend saying I raped it? Ah, my friend's not saying. Oh, that hangout was pulled. Thank you, brother Sanchez, you fraud. It was on a channel called Bro Sanchez. Yeah, Sickle Spec. He was saying it was literally like the Truman Show with people outside the dome directing things inside the dome, and we're all inside the dome. That's what he was saying. Right, let me see if I can find the video I made on the War of the Beams, which was passed to me by a guy called Philip. And it came from him saying to his dad, I think I might be crazy. I think the earth might be flat. And his dad said, where's the documentary, The War of the Beams? What a cool dad. Right, so I forget what it was called. Oh no, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will just put the actual documentary on. The Secret War, it's called. Let me see, just a second. I'm scrolling through a video. To get to the point where R.V. Jones is explaining this. It looks like an entirely different documentary about the same subject. Right. The documentary is called The Secret War. It's 4 hours and 55 minutes long. So I watched it. And yeah. From about here.
Bombers were.
Right, so I'm just going to play this because it's very interesting. Right, I'll just start somewhere and then I can join you in the chat. So, rock lover, lover of rock, I mean. How about you address what I'm about to show? Because I tell you, I like you, but you do a lot of time wasting. If you do not actually directly address what I'm about to show and justify it for a globe, because you're a geocentrist, then I will ban this channel too, and then you'll have to make another one. Okay? Okay. You know, I don't think time wasting is a good thing on my own Hangouts. So yeah. Give me a second. And I will paste a link to this in the chat in case people want to see the entirety of the documentary. Bob and his original ideas. Oh, that's just really made me chuckle. Let me see, where do I share it? Here. Copy. Yeah, hey, if we made a church, then we could protect it. Great idea, Bob. Wow. Your far thinking knows no bounds. Ah, okay, thanks for that. Hammer Walker. The part you're referring to is around 28 through 32 minute mark. Okay, well I'm going to start playing here and then I will jump ahead. Remember, Rock Lover, what I said. Madame Medusa, if he's not listening, make sure that he pays attention.
Aspect of this new form of warfare. Blitzkrieg, lightning war. And lightning it proves to be. Poland is smashed in just 28 days. Norway, Denmark and the Low Countries soon follow. And in England, people begin to wonder when the might of the German Air Force will be used against them. The threat is real enough and is made the more ominous by Hitler's boast of new secret weapons, against which he claims we will be defenseless. Confirmation of these unspecified weapons comes from a most unexpected source, Germany, or at least from a German. In November 1939, the British naval attaché in Oslo receives an anonymous letter, which must rate as one of the most incredible windfalls in the history of espionage. The Oslo Report, as it becomes known, lands on the desk of Dr. R.V. Jones of Air Ministry Scientific Intelligence.
And the letter purported to come from somebody who wished us well, who, if one could believe it, knew a great deal about German research developments. And he said there were a number of things going on. He told us about the Ju-88 being used as a night fighter. There was a dive bomber, for example. He mentioned Peenemünde. He also mentioned that they were developing large rockets, although he didn't actually say they were being done at Peenemünde. And it was the first mention we'd had of Peenemünde. He also told us about the development of pilotless aircraft that was going on. Two kinds of German radar, one of which he said had been used against us in the raids where we'd suffered heavy losses on Wilhelmshaven and Kiel. And most important for this particular story was the idea, what he called Fliegerentfernungsmessgeräte, a device for measuring the distance of an aircraft, for example for bombing, Didn't talk about platform beams at all, but did mention this method of ranging whereby one sent out a modulated wave from a ground station up to the aircraft, relayed it back from the aircraft to the ground, and the delay in the transit time, the pilot could be told from the ground how far away he was.
Our own early warning radar could tell us how far away enemy bombers were, but it was not at that time much use against night intrusions. However, an RAF night fighter, directed by ground radar onto the track of a solitary Heinkel 111, made a lucky visual contact, and the enemy aircraft was shot down. The crashed aircraft was examined as a matter of routine by RAF technical officers. They salvaged a scrap of paper which seemed to be a sort of aid memoir for the navigator. And it read, in translation of course, Navigation Aid, radio beacons working on Plan A. Additionally, from 0600 hours, beacon Durnan. Light beacon after dark, radio beacon Nickerbine from 0600 hours on 315 degrees. While the intelligence officers were working out what that meant, another Heinkel 111 from the same squadron, KG-26, crashed a few nights later. It bore the same identification marks, 1HAC, and seemed to be a replacement aircraft for the earlier loss. It too carried compromising literature, a personal diary from one of the aircrew which bore an entry for the 5th of March 1940. It read, 2/3 of the staffel or squadron are on leave. In the afternoon, studied Nickerbine and collapsible boats. Well, collapsible boats are clear enough, but there was that strange word Nickerbine occurring again. What could it possibly mean? Because Nickerbine happens to be the name for a magic raven in a German fairy story, although the literal translation is simply a crooked leg. One of the obvious ways of finding out more about Nickerbine was obviously through the careful interrogation of German aircrew who had parachuted from their planes over Britain. And during one such session at the Trent Hall Interrogation Centre, the pilot clearly hedged when Nickerbine was mentioned. The interrogator picked up the point, and eventually the pilot revealed that Nickerbine was something like excorate. Clearly he believed we already knew everything about excorate, which we didn't. And he went on to say that they were shortwave radio beams aimed from Germany over Britain. So the trail had suddenly come alive, and the knowledge from these interrogations...
Wait a minute, what did he say? Long radio beams being aimed over Britain?
Aimed something like excorate. Clearly he believed we already knew everything about excorate, which we didn't. And he went on to say that they were shortwave radio beams aimed from Germany over Britain.
Shortwave radio beams aimed from Germany over Britain? Not bounced off the moon?
So the trail had suddenly come alive, and the knowledge from these interrogations, together with information from other sources, made it clear that excorate and Nickerbine were radio navigation aids for attacking bombers. And about this time, R.V. Jones thought that the evidence, though tenuous, was sufficient for a report to the Chiefs of Staff, which he called indications of new German weapons against Britain.
I wrote, it is possible that they have developed a system of intersecting radio beams so that they can locate a target, such as London, sufficiently accurately for indiscriminate bombing. No information is available regarding the wavelength to be employed, but the accuracy of location expected by the Germans is something like half, and I had intended to have mile in, but my secretary had typed metre as the report went out, something like half a metre over London from the western frontier of Germany.
June the 3rd, 1940, and the last of the British troops...
Half a metre over London from Germany? That's very curvature hugging. Let's listen to that again.
As the report went out, something like half a metre over London from the western frontier of Germany.
But he meant to say mile. Okay, so listen.
No information is available regarding the wavelength to be employed, but the accuracy of location expected by the Germans is something like half, and I had intended to have mile in.
I had intended to have mild. So, okay, slightly less Earth-hugging curvature. Earth curvature hugging. Not half a metre, half a mile. Oh, that's okay.
But my secretariat typed metre as the report went out, something like half a metre over London from the western frontier of Germany.
June the 3rd, 1940, and the last of the British troops have been evacuated from Dunkirk. The remainder are captured. And this unique film recalls the desperate measures being prepared on the south coast beaches to meet the expected German invasion. And the real Dad's Army prepare to defend their country. Across the Channel, the Luftwaffe, now using French airfields, prepare to take part in Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Britain. Their orders are transmitted from headquarters to the forward airfields by radio. They're sent in the supposedly unbreakable Enigma code. One of these signals is intercepted, and the 5-letter groups, when deciphered, provide a most significant message.
What it said, I'll translate her. It said, Knickerbein, and then there came the word Claver, is established or confirmed, the German's ambiguous at this point, at point 50.
Oh, so here we have somebody saying, sorry, moving away from the documentary a second. Lover of Rock writes, Antonio, it's common knowledge Earth's magnetic field bends radar. Is that so? See, in the north, the magnetic field points down towards the Earth. Did you know that? Did you know, Lover of Rock? That's right. The magnetic field in the north points down towards the Earth. So if they were sending beams across, well, it would just go down onto the Earth. Like, literally. Look into it. Look into it. You'll enjoy it.
5324 north, 1 degree west. Now, 5324 north, 1 degree west is in England. It is a point roughly on the Great North Road, about a mile south of Retford. Knickerbein, we knew already as the name which we suspected of being concerned with a beam system. Claver, well, one couldn't be quite sure, but it was the German name for the town that we call Cleves, where Anne of Cleves comes from, right on the very western edge of Germany. And in fact, if I can just bring the map in, we have it here. The German frontier comes like this, so this position is as far west as you can get in Germany from the point of view of covering England. So it was quite a likely site for a beam station if they were trying to bomb us using such a system. So the interpretation was the message which I saw almost in a flash was that there is a Knickerbein station at Cleves. Somehow a transmission from it has been confirmed at this position over in England, and the simplest interpretation was that a navigation of aircraft had been out, located where the beam was positioned on this particular occasion.
Dr. Jones took the message to Professor Lindemann, his old tutor and now scientific advisor to Winston Churchill, and tried to persuade him of the serious threat posed by the Knickerbein beams. But Lindemann was not convinced, pointing out that at the high frequencies necessary for an accurate beam, the curvature of the Earth would prevent its being directed against targets in Britain.
This is an argument for which, fortunately, I had met before, when I myself had been putting up a system rather like this for as a proposal for our own bomber navigation.
So, this man, the head of the Air Force Science Division, put forth the proposition that they used the same system against Britain's enemies before the Germans carried out that strategy. He proposed it. Why would he propose it if he thought that the Earth was a sphere? If the Earth was a sphere, it wouldn't work, which is a reason by which Churchill's advisor said, don't be silly, this will never work, Earth curvature, right? So why would this guy propose it in the first place?
And it had been turned down on this very ground. And fortunately,
Let's go back.
Curvature of the Earth of the serious
So listen carefully.
threat posed by the Knickerbein beams. But Lindemann was not convinced, pointing out that at the high frequencies necessary for an accurate beam, the curvature of the Earth would prevent its being directed against targets in Britain.
This is an argument for
The curvature of the Earth would prevent it being effective over that distance.
which fortunately I had met before, when I myself had been putting up a system rather like this for as a proposal for our own bomber navigation, and it had been turned down on this very ground. And fortunately, from the point of view of this story anyway, I had seen a paper by Mr. T.L. Eckersley of the Marconi Company, who was the sort of confidential consultant to our radio listening service, when he had worked out what you could receive on the ground from transmitters at various points. And he'd actually taken a transmitter over on the Brocken, over in central Germany, and he had shown that it was in principle possible to receive it by a receiver somewhere, even in Britain. And so I got out Eckersley's report as a piece of ammunition to go back to Lindemann the next day. But in that 24 hours, a great deal more happened.
The Trent Park Centre had received more captured aircrew. The interrogator, Squadron Leader Falkin, had asked about Knickerbein, but the crews had given nothing away. After questioning, however, the German aircrew returned to their room, and the room was bugged.
Of course, they talked to one another, and one had said that Falkin had been asking about the Knickerbein, and the prisoner was rather laughing. He said, because, you know, they'll never find it. They'll never find it. And this was an enormous challenge. It must be in the aeroplane. And after all, we got Hiker 111, so the whole of the radio equipment had been examined at Farnborough.
But the puzzling thing was that the experts could find nothing puzzling, nothing in any way unusual. All the radio sets were exactly what you would expect to find in a night bomber. As this captured wartime film shows, the standard German airborne radio equipment at that time, 1939 to 1940, was the FUG-10, which comprised excellent transmitters and receivers for long and shortwave communication. The aircraft were also equipped with direction-finding receivers, as well as the only device which R.V. Jones considered could, by any stretch of the imagination, be capable of detecting a beam: the Lorenz blind landing receivers, the EBL-1 and the EBL-2. Now, some of these blind landing receivers from crashed German aircraft had been examined at Farnborough by a radio expert, Squadron Leader Cox Walker.
So I asked Cox Walker if there was anything odd about the blind landing receiver, and first he said no, and then he said, but wait a minute, yes, you know, it's much more sensitive than they would need for blind landing. And of course that was it. Effectively, the prisoner had thought we wouldn't spot it because it looked to be an ordinary blind landing receiver, but in fact it was a much better receiver than one needed. It would have the necessary sensitivity, we thought, and so here was the answer.
Now, the RAF knew all about Lorenz. There was a blind approach development unit at Boscombe Down, which had actually published a handbook, AP 1751, Blind Approach Pilot's Handbook.
I bet that says that the Earth is flat and non-rotating. I wonder if that one's available.
Which described the details of the technique, and there was certainly nothing secret about it. It had been in use in several commercial and military aircraft in various parts of the world since 1937. Its main purpose was to enable pilots to locate and make a blind approach to an airfield in conditions of bad visibility even at night. So, how did it work? Well, the principle was pretty straightforward, although to use it required very accurate flying on the part of the pilot. Basically, there was a radio beacon at the end of the runway firing a coded signal straight down the centre line of the runway. And an aircraft tuned into the appropriate frequency could pick that signal up 15-20 miles away. When he was flying towards the runway on the left-hand side of the beam, the pilot would hear simply a series of dots. As he turned towards the centre line, the dots and dashes would come together to make a single constant note known as an equi-signal. As he flew out to the right-hand side of the beam, the signal would become simply a series of dashes. So, by listening to the signal, the pilot would know whether he was to the left of the runway, lined up with it, or out to the right-hand side. As he flew closer to the runway, the beam became narrower, so hopefully he could fly more accurately and actually carry out a landing. The important thing to bear in mind is the range. For all the known uses at that time, the the range was only 15 to 20 miles. Nevertheless, Dr. Jones was convinced that his theory was correct, that the German bombers were using their Lorenz blind landing sets to fly the long-range beams. And if this was so, then the threat was very grave indeed, because all German bombers carried this equipment as standard. Therefore, all of them were potential beam flyers. He decided that he would have to convince Lindemann.
Convinced him on the theory, now, with Eckers's paper, that the beams would bend round sufficiently, that it was in the blind landing receiver, therefore they must be on frequencies to which the blind landing receivers could be set, and therefore we could listen for them. And Lindemann changed completely at that point and wrote a minute to Churchill, warning him that they seemed to have some new system which would enable them, the German Air Force, to bomb us fairly accurately at night.
It was now June the 14th, and as the victorious German army marched into Paris, it was clear that it could only be a matter of days before the French would sue for peace. It meant that the German Air Force would have new, nearer bases for their bombers and their transmitters. It made the beams an even graver threat. But we were yet to be defeated. Our radar was still watching round the clock, and our night fighters managed to make some interceptions.
We had been far luckier than, in retrospect, we ought to be in shooting down German aircraft. And over that few days, there were several prisoners who came on. Of course, they were all interrogated as skillfully. And by that, I don't mean tortured or anything like that. They were just, it was a battle of wits, in which Felkin was really very, very good. And the result was that quite a lot of information came out. And, of course, documents, too, in the captured aircraft, including, I suppose from around the 19th or 20th of June, one which actually the navigator torn up the bits. I think Felkin told me that there were 3,000 pieces they had actually picked up, and they sat up all night sticking them together. And these, when the bits were stuck together, actually gave, and I think I have them here, the mention of the figures, and it said UKW, which means ultra Kurzwelle and ultra shortwave, and Knicki, which is optic Knickerbein, and they then gave a position, 53.38.7 north, 8 degrees 56.8 minutes west.
Stolberg. This was the location of a second Knickerbein transmitter in Schleswig-Holstein. This station provided the crossbeam for the one at Cleve.
But wait a minute, right. That other one is farther away. So how could they cross on a globe Earth? They can't cross on a globe Earth. Don't be so silly.
The bomber pilot could use the Cleve beam for direction, flying along its equisignal. Then, when near the target, the receiver would be tuned to the crossbeam from Stolberg to give the range. First, he would fly through the dots to reach the constant tone of the equisignal, and when he was in the centre of the crossbeam, the target would be directly beneath the bomber. The massive aerials of the Knickerbein station could be swung to locate the beams over any target. The captured documents even gave the frequencies in use, 30 and 31.5 megacycles. This information was available to R.V. Jones just in time for a meeting with the Prime Minister.
I said to him, well, so would it help if I told you the story from the beginning? Well, he sort of startled back a bit and said, yes, that's a good idea. I said, and of course I then told him the story right from the beginning of how the build-up had occurred with the stories of the ex-great being mentioned by prisoners, and building up, of course, to all the very latest evidence. And then the discussion, of course, obviously Winston was convinced. I could see I was making an impression, obviously a very deep impression. And at the end of it, well, what could be done? And, well, various countermeasures could be undertaken, putting in a false beam, for the first one I'd thought of, or fooling about with the dots and the dashes, or even straight jamming. There were various possibilities.
Winston Churchill's version of that same meeting is contained in his book Their Finest Hour. And he writes, being master and not having to argue too much, once I was convinced about the principles of this queer and deadly game, I gave all the necessary orders that very day in June, for the existence of the beams to be assumed, and for all countermeasures to receive absolute priority. The slightest reluctance or deviation in carrying out this policy was to be reported to me.
But of course the first thing was to be absolutely certain that they really were there and it wasn't a great hoax. I didn't think it was for a moment, but nevertheless one needed to really listen. And by this time we had in fact got a search aircraft equipped.
It was an Avro Anson from the Blind Flying Unit at Boscombe Down. As it was being prepared, the French were selling the armistice in Fox railway carriage at Compiègne. While Hitler was conducting this humiliating piece of theatre, in London there was a parallel meeting which was to prove in its way just as dramatic. The radio expert, T.L. Eckersley, on whose evidence Jones was relying, was about to drop a bombshell. Arnold Wilkins, from the National Physical Laboratory, was present when Eckersley spoke.
And I remember him saying that, in his opinion, reception at any distance on this wavelength was quite impossible, and he'd stake his reputation on this statement.
Well, this is an absolute blow from my point of view, because if that really were true, of course, all the fuss that I had been the cause of would now be exploded. And what could happen to me for the rest of my life, I was very problematic. But I pointed out to him that I'd used one of his own papers to convince Lindemann that this showed quite clearly the beams would go that far. Horace, you don't want to believe that. You see, I was showing then how far they might go, but I don't really think they go as far as that. And at that point, Lywood, who was group captain, principal deputy director of signals, said, well, here we have the world's expert on propagation. He says the beams are impossible. We ought to waste any more time on it. I think we ought to cancel the flight. And faced with this, I did, I think, the only thing I could do.
So, some guys, especially one who said, I stake my reputation on this, were trying to get them to cancel the flight that would either confirm or, well, that would confirm that the beam was there. It would confirm one way or the other. The beam is there or the beam is not there. No, cancel that flight. Yep, cancel it. Don't need it.
Which was to say, well, now look, I was at a meeting in the cabinet room this morning, and I heard the Prime Minister give orders for that flight to take place. And if it doesn't take place, I shall see that he gets to know who it was who cancelled it. At that point, Lywood caved in. And
so, let me just go. I'm going to play it again, because he explains what the guy said. Stake his reputation on it in order to cancel the flight that would have confirmed it, one way or another.
Lindemann, that this showed quite clearly the beams would go that far. Horace, you don't want to believe that.
Right.
Doubt of wouldn't know from my point of view, because if that really were true, of course, all the fuss.
Right.
D.L. Eckersley, on whose evidence Jones was relying, was about.
So, I'm playing again the part where one academic said that he would wage his reputation on it. That's ego. In order to cancel this flight. What's the problem with the flight taking place? See, that guy was trying to protect his ego.
About to drop a bombshell.
At the cost of who knows how many lives. It doesn't matter as long as my ego's intact, says imposters.
Arnold Wilkins, from the National Physical Laboratory, was present when Eckersley spoke.
And I remember him saying that, in his opinion, reception at any distance on this wavelength was quite impossible, and he'd stake his reputation on this statement.
Well, this is an absolute blow from my point of view, because if that really were true, of course, all the fuss that I had been the cause of would now be exploded. And what could happen to me for the rest of my life, I was very problematic. But I pointed out to him that I'd used one of his own papers to convince Lindemann that this showed quite clearly the beams would go that far. Horace, you don't want to believe that. You see, I was showing then how far they might go, but I don't really think they go as far as that. And at that point, Lywood, who was group captain, principal deputy director of signals, said, well, here we have the world's expert on propagation. He says the beams are impossible. We ought to waste any more time on it. I think we ought to cancel the flight. And faced with this, I did, I think, the only thing I could do, which was to say, well, now look, I was at a meeting in the Cabinet Room this morning, and I heard the Prime Minister give orders for that flight to take place. And if it doesn't take place, I shall see that he gets to know who it was who cancelled it. At that point, Leo Lywood caved in, and so they said, all right, they'd have the flight, although quite clearly, at least some of us didn't expect to find anything. So they said, well, where should we fly?
The aircraft had been flown to Witten to be near the east coast, which any beam from Germany would have to cross. The Ansons were, in fact, far from ideal for this sort of search operation. They were slow, cold, and extremely noisy aircraft that had already been pensioned off from operational flying. There is a record, in fact, in the archives at Boscombe Down to show that at least one of the aircraft involved in this project had been recommended for write-off by the engineers. But they were all that could be spared. It was, remember, only 5 days after the Dunkirk evacuation, and everyone was expecting Britain to be invaded by the Germans at any moment. The aircraft had been fitted up with a special American VHF receiver known as Hallicrafters S27. They were designed essentially for radio amateurs, but they were the only receivers available in England at the time that covered the predicted frequency of the beams. And the story goes that an RAF officer was dispatched to buy up the whole stock from a radio shop in Soho on credit. The pilot was a Flight Lieutenant Bufton, a skilled beams approach pilot, and the radio operator was a Corporal Mackey of Y Service, a group of skilled operators, most of them pre-war radio hams, who had been formed into this special unit. The name of the navigator isn't known. So, on the night of the 21st of June 1940, an Anson took off from Witten. The crew hadn't been told any of the details of the Knickerbein story. They'd simply been ordered to search for radio transmissions with the Lorentz characteristics series of dots and dashes, and if they found any, to try to locate the bearing of the equisignal in the centre of the beam. So, Flight Lieutenant Bufton climbed away from Witten on a northerly heading in the darkness and the heavy cloud. Behind him, Corporal Mackey at the receiver was carefully searching around 31.5 megacycles. But all he could hear was the crash of the static. Then, when they were very close to Spalding, faintly at first, but steadily growing clearer through the noise, the unmistakable sound of a series of Morse dots. Mackey called out to the pilot, "Skipper, listen to those dots. I think I found the signal." And as they listened, the dots, now very loud, became a constant note, the equisignal in the middle of the beam. And as they continued on their northerly heading, that equisignal became a series of dashes. They had, without doubt, found the secret beam.
What does that tell us? That overconfidence can work against you. The Germans were overconfident that they'd never find it, otherwise they could have just turned off the transmissions. Then the British would have gone up in as many planes as they wanted and found nothing. I mean, that's just silly. They could have just said, right, okay, we're on a mission tonight, turn it on. But overconfidence, it will do that to the Globelings.
And when the navigator plotted the bearing, it turned out to be 104,284 degrees from true north. The equisignal was just 400 yards wide. The frequency was exactly 31.5 megacycles. And on the charts, that beam passed directly over the critical Rolls-Royce Aero Engine factory at Derby. This was the only factory at that time making the Rolls-Royce Merlin engines that powered the vital Spitfires and Hurricanes for the soon-to-be-fought Battle of Britain. That same night, the searching Anson found the second beam from Stolberg. It confirmed all that Jones had feared.
Well, of course, one of the things I did after this was to write an account of the story so far, under the title The Crooked Leg, but I couldn't resist the opportunity of ending the report, having summarised all the intelligence, with the sentence, "If our good fortunes hold, we may yet pull the crooked leg."
The first thing that was to be done was to set up some sort of jamming, even if it was just crude radio interference, since that could be effective over a short distance.
Crude radio interference. I wonder if bouncing a beam repeatedly off the ionosphere could serve or be considered a crude method of interference. I'm just saying.
In any case, it would certainly be better than nothing, because once an aircraft had lost the signals, it could be difficult on a dark night to get back on the beam. The operational jamming of Knickerbein was the concern of an RAF signals officer, Wing Commander E.B. Addison, who was soon to be in charge of the 1st Radio Countermeasures Unit, 80 Wing of the RAF, which was installed initially in a garage near Garston at Watford.
Somebody came up with the idea that we had got transmitters in the country more or less on the same frequency as the Knickerbein in the 30 megacycles range. And these were the diathermy sets that were used by the medical people in hospital for various work in their surgeries. A doctor...
Now, total sidestepping, side subject, digression. Listen to what this man is going to say now about the devices they had that worked on those at those frequencies. Listen.
Cycles range. And these were the diathermy sets that were used by the medical people in hospital for various work in their surgeries.
I'm going to play that again for those that missed it the first time. Listen.
At Watford.
Somebody came up with the idea that we had got transmitters in the country more or less on the same frequency as the Knickerbein in the 30 megacycles range. And these were the diathermy sets that were used by the medical people in hospital for various work in their surgeries. A doctor who came to see...
Interesting, huh? They're using those radio frequencies for surgeries or during surgeries.
...me and said he knew all about diathermy sets. Could he help me? I said, yes, you can. Go out and change your mufti suit for a uniform. The next day he came along from Mossbros with a brand new flight lieutenant's uniform. I said, your first job is to go around all the hospitals where you know there are diathermy sets, pinch them and bring them in here. And we'll modify them and then we'll distribute them around the country. They aren't going to be very good, but they will at least cause some interference, and the Germans will know that we are interfering with them.
But the beams still had to be tracked, and the answers from Whitton flew searches each night so that the appropriate countermeasures, the modified diathermy sets, could be set up under the beam. The Anson flights were controlled by Wing Commander Bluck from Headquarters Fighter Command at Bentley Priory, whose commanding officer, the redoubtable Stuffy Dowding...
I think that's a good place for a cliffhanger. So that's enough of that. You can watch the rest of it. I pasted the link in the chat. And I'm going to bid you all a good night soon. Yeah, very interesting. So, we'll learn a couple of things. They're using those frequencies for surgeries. What kind of surgeries? That's interesting. I've not heard of that before. Radio waves, maybe for healing. I don't know. Beams crossing over, targeting areas in Britain. The documentary goes on to say that then the British went and did it back and used them on Germany. And after jamming the German ones by dropping strips of aluminium foil. So, yeah, jamming radio signals. 10,600 miles around the curvature of the Earth would mean the signal bouncing over and over and over. That would be, well, scrambling the signal. It just wouldn't work. However, a very narrow beam, straight, like flat, like not over curvature, fine, that's fine. There's Australia in that direction. In fact, if you get my map, what I'm going to do in the next book, I'm going to publish another map, same map, just different style, and urge people to use it with a compass. Take the map, point north from your location, find where north is from your location, point north, and then you'll be able to say Australia's in that direction, New York is in that direction with the map. That will help people ground themselves. Right, guys, that's it. My throat is getting sore, so I hope you all enjoy the rest of your holiday. So we'll see you when I see you again. Okay. And that's it. Shalom. Bye.